Imagine a city built entirely from scratch. Billions spent creating ultra-modern skyscrapers, state-of-the-art housing complexes, and pristine roads. A place meticulously planned to accommodate more than 1 million people. Now, picture this same city completely empty, its buildings untouched, and its roads deserted. It kinda sounds like fiction, right? But in Inner Mongolia, this is reality. Welcome to Ordos, China's most infamous ghost city. Once intended to become an urban showcase of wealth, progress, and prosperity, Ordos now sits as a stark reminder of the risks associated with overly ambitious urban planning. With construction costs running into tens of billions of dollars, Ordos is officially the world's most expensive abandoned city. But how did China's bold vision for Ordos fail so spectacularly? Was it flawed economic forecasting, poor urban planning, or something more complex? In this video, I'll uncover the incredible story behind Ordos, exploring the critical mistakes, dramatic miscalculations, and hidden lessons of this unimaginable urban failure. In the early 2000s, China was experiencing one of the greatest economic expansions the world has ever seen, driven by rapid industrialization, vast infrastructure investments, and skyrocketing property markets. As millions flocked from rural areas into overcrowded cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, the Chinese government began searching for ways to relieve urban congestion and stimulate economic development across lesser-known regions. Ordos, situated in the vast plains of Inner Mongolia, quickly captured attention. The area was uniquely wealthy in natural resources, boasting enormous reserves of coal, natural gas, and rare earth minerals essential for modern technology. As global commodity prices soared, Ordos rapidly became one of China's richest regions per capita. Local government officials and ambitious planners saw an unprecedented opportunity. Why not leverage this wealth to build a showcase city, one that could symbolize China's rise as a modern economic powerhouse? The grand vision was clear. Construct an entirely new district named Kangbashi on the outskirts of Ordos, designed from scratch to house over 1 million residents. The plan called for world-class amenities, luxurious residential complexes, cutting-edge administrative centers, beautifully landscaped parks, cultural attractions, and lavish public buildings. Billions of dollars poured into Kangbashi as construction boomed, with leading architects brought in from around the world to ensure the city would become a shining example of China's modernization. This massive investment and bold ambition initially seemed promising. However, questions quickly began to surface. Were planners overly optimistic in their population growth projections? Could Inner Mongolia realistically attract enough residents and businesses to fill an entirely new urban district? And who exactly was expected to relocate to Kangbashi, a district rising swiftly from what was previously barren grassland? Despite these growing uncertainties, construction raced forward. The promise of economic prosperity, national prestige, and visionary urban design overshadowed early doubts. Yet beneath the glittering facades and brand new roads, something was clearly amiss. Something that would soon turn Kangbashi into the world's most expensive urban ghost town. From a purely engineering standpoint, the Kangbashi district in Ordos was a remarkable achievement, spanning roughly 350 square kilometers, which is nearly half the size of Singapore. The city was meticulously planned with impressive attention to detail. The master plan laid out wide, immaculate avenues designed to accommodate large volumes of traffic, linking a network of residential zones, commercial centers, administrative hubs, and sprawling public parks. At the heart of Kangbashi lies its impressive civic core, featuring iconic buildings designed from international architects. One prominent example is the Ordos Museum, an architectural masterpiece with a fluid, futuristic shape designed to symbolize the progressive ambitions of the region. And nearby, there was a grand theater, a state-of-the-art library, and expansive cultural centers that were constructed, each representing China's vision for a cultural renaissance in its new cities. The residential infrastructure was equally ambitious. Tens of thousands of apartments were built, ranging from modest housing blocks to luxurious villas, many constructed using modern building techniques designed for rapid and large-scale urban development. The city was outfitted with advanced utilities and infrastructure, including cutting-edge power grids, modern sewage and water systems, and even provisions for fiber optic broadband internet. However, beneath the architectural glamour, the city faced significant engineering and logistical challenges, as you can imagine for something this large. The Kangbashi district was constructed in an area with challenging environmental conditions, such as extreme seasonal temperature fluctuations with freezing winters and scorching summers, and this created technical hurdles for construction crews. Building large-scale urban infrastructure rapidly under these harsh conditions was costly and also complex. Additionally, the vastness of the planned city required enormous investment into transportation and connectivity infrastructure. The elaborate network of roads and bridges I described earlier had to be built quickly, many stretching out into undeveloped land, anticipating future expansions that never materialized. But perhaps most critically, the sheer speed of construction, intended to showcase China's efficiency and capability, actually amplified existing challenges. Surprise, surprise, quality control issues emerged, with many buildings completed rapidly but left structurally questionable, raising long-term concerns over safety, durability, and maintenance. The result was a technically impressive but practically flawed city. Beautiful and futuristic in appearance, but disconnected from the realities of local demand and sustainable growth. Looking at Ordos from an economic perspective, the megaproject initially appeared highly promising. Funded by a mix of government investment, private developers, and state-backed banks, billions of dollars poured into Kangbashi, making it one of the most heavily financed urban developments in China's history. The primary strategic rationale behind the development was twofold. First, Ordos aimed to leverage its natural resource wealth, specifically coal and rare earth minerals, to fuel economic expansion and attract both domestic and international investors. Second, it intended to relieve population pressure from China's overcrowded eastern cities by drawing new residents inland with the promise of modern, affordable urban living. But this strategy quickly unraveled. The local economy, despite being resource-rich, was heavily reliant on volatile commodities markets. When coal prices dropped sharply in the early 2010s, Ordos's economic foundation began to crumble. The city's reliance on speculative real estate investments only worsened matters, creating a dangerous financial bubble. Property developers, incentivized by easy credit and generous local government subsidies, built far more residential units than the region realistically required, and housing prices surged, driven purely by speculation rather than genuine local demand, leading to a massive mismatch between available housing and actual population growth. At its peak, apartments in Kangbashi were priced similarly to those in Beijing and Shanghai, despite Ordos's much smaller population and economic base. When China's central government eventually imposed tighter restrictions on speculative lending and attempted to control the overheating housing market nationwide, the artificial demand supporting Kangbashi's property bubble vanished almost overnight. Investors quickly withdrew, leaving unfinished construction projects scattered across the city and causing property prices to collapse dramatically. Strategically, the vision of populating inland regions with migrants from crowded cities proved overly simplistic. Many Chinese citizens preferred cities with established economic opportunities and proven infrastructure, rather than risking relocation to a remote, largely untested region. Ultimately, Kangbashi's economic failure underscores the dangers of speculative urban planning, where impressive ambitions are completely disconnected from genuine market needs and sustainable growth strategies. Its stark empty buildings now stand as monuments to a strategic gamble that simply didn't pay off. The story of Ordos isn't just about economic miscalculations. It's also about the profound social and environmental consequences of rapid and speculative urbanization. The empty streets and abandoned buildings of Cambashi quickly became global symbols of wasted resources and environmental recklessness. First, let's talk about the environmental cost of constructing an entire city from scratch. It was immense. Vast areas of grassland, once home to diverse wildlife and used by local pastoral communities, were cleared rapidly to accommodate construction. The ecological disruption was absolutely significant. There were dust storms and soil erosions that were intensifying as vegetation was stripped away. Moreover, Kingbashi's energy-intensive construction methods and massive buildings have resulted in enormous carbon emissions, even though many structures remain unused. Ordos has also sparked intense social controversy. The local government aggressively promoted Kingbashi as a land of opportunity, encouraging thousands of citizens, particularly lower-income workers, to invest their savings into property, expecting rapid appreciation. Wang Li, a local investor, described the impact vividly. "We were told Kingbashi would be a thriving city, a sure investment for our future. But today, my apartment is worthless. My savings are tied up in something I can't sell, can't rent, and can't use. It feels like my family's future was stolen." Today, many investors like Wang Li remain stuck in financial limbo, owning apartments in ghostly high-rises that nobody wants to buy or rent. There's also, unsurprisingly, been criticisms raised regarding transparency, governance, and accountability around the Ordos project. There are persistent accusations of corruption, with allegations that local officials benefited personally from land sales and inflated construction contracts, leading to investigations and arrests that further undermine trust in the project. Chen Wei, a construction worker who helped build Kingbashi, recalled, "Even as we worked around the clock, we couldn't help but wonder, who exactly was meant to live here? It felt disconnected from reality, almost like building a movie set rather than a real city." From a broader perspective, Ordos became a lightning rod for international criticism of China's urban development policies. Foreign observers question, and rightly so, the logic behind China's build first, populate later urban strategy, highlighting Ordos as a cautionary tale of how ambitious infrastructure developments could completely spiral into economic and ecological disasters if left unchecked. And finally, local communities outside Kingbashi district who initially welcomed the influx of investment and the promise of economic prosperity have been left disillusioned and disappointed. Rather than boosting regional prosperity, the empty city has become an economic burden, a stark reminder of failed promises and unrealistic expectations. In short, the impacts and controversies surrounding Ordos serve as powerful reminders that ambitious urbanization, if disconnected from genuine social and environmental considerations, can leave behind devastating consequences far beyond empty buildings and deserted streets. Ordos isn't the only megaproject to experience such dramatic failure, but it's perhaps one of the most extreme examples in recent history. Looking globally, Ordos mirrors several infamous projects that suffered due to overambitious planning, poor economic foresight, or neglect of local realities. Take Xuelathril Airport in Spain, often called the billion-dollar ghost airport. Just like Ordos, Xuelathril was envisioned as a transformative economic project, but ultimately collapsed due to overly optimistic growth predictions and unrealistic demand assessments. Sound familiar? Similarly, the Ryugyong Hotel in North Korea, an ambitious skyscraper left empty for decades, serves as another parallel, demonstrating how prestige-driven developments without realistic market analysis are prone to costly failures. However, Ordos stands out in its scale and the severity of its miscalculations. It provides critical lessons that rise above these other failures that urban planners and governments worldwide should really take seriously. First and foremost of these lessons, urban projects must be closely aligned with real demand and market realities. Speculative property investment driven purely by future optimism rather than concrete demographic and economic analysis is a recipe for disaster. The second lesson is sustainable growth, which requires comprehensive social and environmental considerations from the start. Ignoring the ecological footprint and social consequences of massive urban expansion can lead to long-term damage far outweighing any temporary economic benefits. Third, transparency and accountability in governance and finance are crucial. There may be a lot of government oversight in a lot of countries, but there's a reason for it. The allegations of corruption surrounding Ordos highlight the importance of rigorous oversight, ethical governance, and transparent economic management in mega projects. You have to see where the money is flowing and why. Lastly, Ordos reminds us of the inherent risks in relying heavily on volatile commodity markets as a foundation for long-term urban prosperity. These were risks realized time and time again in history. Think about mining towns that were propped up and then quickly abandoned when materials, goods, and resources ran out. Case in point, a diversified, resilient economy, one that doesn't solely rely on a single industry or resource, that's essential for sustainable urban development. So in short, Ordos represents more than just a failed city. It offers critical insight into the complexities, risks, and responsibilities involved in modern urban planning. Its story serves as a powerful cautionary tale for any city or government considering similar large-scale urban expansions. In my opinion, Ordos represents more than just a cautionary tale about speculative real estate and overly ambitious urban planning. It highlights deeper issues with rapid urbanization strategies, particularly the tendency to prioritize grand visions over realistic, community-focused development. While the concept of constructing entirely new urban centers is kind of cool and can have its merits, like reducing overcrowding and driving regional economic growth, Ordos illustrates the dangers of neglecting genuine local needs and actual market demands. Obviously, ambition alone can't replace careful planning and realistic forecasting. If planners had truly listened to local communities and experts' warning about the oversupply of housing and unsustainable property speculation, Ordos might have had a very different outcome. The environmental impacts associated with this type of reckless development cannot be overstated. Projects of this scale should always consider sustainability as a core principle rather than an afterthought. The ecological and economic consequences of building an empty city from scratch only to abandon it are profoundly damaging. Finally, the transparency and accountability issues around Ordos reflect broader lessons for governments and developers worldwide. Large-scale projects inherently require rigorous oversight, ethical governance, and full transparency, because without these safeguards, they risk becoming costly failures, burdening local communities rather than benefiting them. Ordos wasn't doomed from the start, but its failure was sealed by short-sighted economic decisions, unrealistic growth expectations, and a complete disregard for genuine sustainability. For cities worldwide facing rapid growth, the key lesson here is actually really clear. Genuine urban success comes from careful planning, realistic expectations, sustainability, and above all, placing community needs at the heart of development. In the end, the story of Ordos isn't just about empty buildings or financial ruin. It's a profound lesson about the balance between ambition and reality. While visionary urban projects have their place and, like I said before, are actually really cool, Ordos clearly illustrates the crucial importance of sustainability, transparency, and community-focused planning. As cities around the world continue to grow, it's vital to remember these lessons, ensuring future urban developments truly serve their intended purpose rather than becoming costly monuments to failure. Ordos may remain empty today, but its story carries invaluable insights that we simply cannot afford to ignore.